Hello and welcome to Live Well, Be Well, a wellness show where we explore diverse ways to boost health, well-being and connection. Breathe, thrive and feel alive. My name is Deborah from Be Well with Deborah. I'm a wellness coach and your show host for today. The purpose of this show is to inspire and educate as we explore the many paths of wellness together. Creating community and connection is vital for true wellness, and here we have the opportunity to listen to those doing incredible work in the wellness field, as well as individuals with inspiring personal stories of their own wellness journey. My intention is that the insights and experiences shared here bring you inspiration, encouragement and hope, especially if you or your loved ones are facing any challenges on your own wellness journey. My guest today, Paulo Farinha, is born in Braga, Portugal and raised in Toronto, Canada. Paulo has built a life rooted in movement, health and community after earning a specialised honours degree in kinesiology at York University, along with a certificate in sports administration. He deepened his passion for understanding the body, performance and well-being. A dedicated capoeira practitioner since 2000, Paulo has been teaching for more than 20 years. His move to Ireland in 2010 led him to establish Capoeira Cork in 2013, creating a vibrant community for Brazilian arts, movement and wellness. With a background in marketing and promotions, Paulo eventually followed a deeper calling in health and returned to study osteopathy at the Irish College of Osteopathic Medicine. Along with this, he gained qualifications in sports massage, dry needling, cranial therapy and manipulation therapy, bringing a holistic approach to his practice. Today, Paulo combines his experience in movement, integrated therapies and education to share a unique perspective on vitality, balance and purpose in everyday life. Welcome to the show, Paulo.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks for having me on.
How are you feeling today?
Good. I'm actually feeling great, but my voice is a little weird because of the remnants of a cold, so I'm still a little nasally.
That's okay, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So, I'm very curious, you grew up in Portugal and then you spent a good chunk of your life then in Canada as well. How did your early experiences shape your own approach to wellness and movement?
So, I was actually born in Portugal, but I moved to Canada when I was 3, so I never really grew up there. But it was interesting because Toronto was I think they call America the melting pot, whereas Toronto is more like everybody just comes together. Mm-hmm. And so everyone keeps their individual cultures. So what I always tell people is that even though I grew up in Canada, whenever I passed the threshold of my door, I was like in the Portuguese embassy. So the food was Portuguese. My mom only cooked Portuguese food. The television and the radio were in Portuguese. I could only speak Portuguese at home. And also we lived in the Portuguese kind of Italian area. And so we would we'd go to the Portuguese grocery store and the Italian bakery. So it was an interesting experience. So I never grew up in Portugal, but it almost felt like I did. It's interesting when you're like asking about how it shaped the wellness stuff. And I think you don't ever realize it until like you get really into something. And then you're looking back and you're like, oh yeah, that, like those were formative years, or it shaped me in a negative way, I'd say. So my parents they were fresh off the like fascist regime, let's say in Portugal. So a few years gone and they decided, okay, we want to move. And so we went to Canada. So my relationship like with things like food is really interesting because food for them was all about, oh my God, we have abundance all of a sudden. So like, I grew up with poor food habits, and I didn't realize that until recently. Like, so for instance, yeah, my mom would cook great food that was actually the traditional Mediterranean diet. So you're thinking, oh, that's probably a good food habit, yeah. But the fridge would also always be stocked with soda, and my mom would look at ice cream as something like, oh yeah, eat. Eat was the solution to everything. Oh, you're sick, eat. You're feeling good, eat. You're too skinny, eat. You're too fat, eat. Like everything was eat, eat, eat. And so because they didn't have so much food growing up, it was scarce. Yes. Right? So their relationship with food was like that. So later my dad would actually eventually get diabetes. So, and when I went to school to do kinesiology, nutrition was a big part of that. And I also became kind of an athlete around that time in my life. And so I had to completely configure my relationship with food. Like, I was very addicted to sugar because I loved my sodas and, and all these other things. So I had to step back, reformulate how I ate. I had some really good food habits because, the Mediterranean diet part of it, and then some really poor food habits because my mom would think food was everything. So that was interesting. My relationship with movement was really weird too because my parents worked and they worked and they worked. So there was no gym, no working out, only later when my dad got diabetes did they start having to go for walks and things like that and, change their habits. And I was there to help them. Luckily I'd already studied kinesiology by then, and so I was able to, push them along, but it's hard to push parents along a path when you're the child because you don't know anything.
Yeah, you're still what do you know? You're still only a baby,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm I studied 4 years for this. You don't know anything. So very much that, and so it was interesting. And only recently I was reflecting on something else I was doing. We might hit on it later, but I was growing up in that area, in that neighborhood. I would see all the older immigrant folks. So the older Italian and Portuguese ladies, what I call the widowers, because they would all wear the traditional, I'm a widower now, so it's all black all the time. But I remember having a fear when I was young of not necessarily dying, but of growing old, because they seemed so withered to me, right? People would be hunched over, walking, shuffling their steps little by little. And I was I remember as a child, because I was a very active child, I enjoyed just running, jumping, playing outside, on the BMX bikes. I did all that stuff. And I remember seeing them and being I'm really scared for when I get to that, because I can't run, I can't jump, I can't, and I just thought that was inevitable, because that was the people around me, right? They hit a certain age, and even my parents were very sedentary. They would sit for a long time, they'd come home from work, had active jobs, but then they would just sit and rest, and that was what I was so I didn't see the movement side of things, and it's kind of crazy that I went down the path of non-stop movement in my life. So
yeah, that's really interesting, and it sounds to me, and would you agree that it was almost seeing that, I suppose, fear of not wanting to be like that when you were older gave you that motivation, then that extra motivation then to stay in the movement, stay in healthy eating?
I'm not sure. I don't know that it's why I found movement and stuff, but it's definitely something that's pushed me along. Once I saw my dad have diabetes and stuff, I was I don't want to become that. And I did reflect on I don't want to become this. It's funny because longevity is the big thing I'm into right now, and it's the thing that's opposite of what my fear was, right? It's about not growing old, but it's about growing old and still being capable of living and doing things. And so I reflect a lot on that. Nowadays, I think back a lot to that, to being maybe that is why I moved so much, but I think I also just have that personality where, if you're walking down the sidewalk and there's a little wall next to you, I think I never lost that childlike habit of, I'm gonna jump up on the wall and walk on that instead. I still do it, and I'm a 44-year-old grown man, and it's still weird, but I enjoy it. So
I know, it sounds you haven't lost the magic of movement when the inner child. That's what keeps people young, I feel, at heart, no matter what age.
Absolutely. It's that concept of play, right? We lose as we grow old, we stop playing.
Yes.
And it's funny when you look at what play is, because as adults, and we're very serious, and we have jobs and everything, and we need rest, but play. My dog, who's an old lady now, well, not an old lady, but she's 6, so in dog years she's getting up there, but she still loves to play. And I've seen dogs at 10, 12, 14 that still love to play. So animals still play, because play is a safe way to keep moving, to have fun, to release some energy, to release some endorphins and stuff. But we seem to lose that as humans later on in life. And it's funny because I think that's what the capoeira that you mentioned that I do, all capoeira is play. We have 6 words for play in different forms, right? So it's about playing, it's about staying healthy and active through through silliness, let's say.
Yes, and just so if any of our listener is listening in today, the capoeira would be, I suppose, what some people would view that is a martial arts, and you're saying there's the element of play. What other kind of benefits would people not necessarily know about until they try it?
For sure. So real quick, I'll give an overview of what capoeira is, because I know it's not a common word. Capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian, I used to say martial art, but now I just say art form, because I think martial art is putting it in a small box that it doesn't belong. Martial arts is definitely a part of it, but it's one component, right? So it's this art form that was used in Brazil by the slaves to free themselves, basically physically, right? To learn how to fight, to go against the oppressor. But it had to be hidden, because obviously you're a slave, you're not allowed to do things like that. So they hid it as a dance, as acrobatics, and as silliness and fun. So nowadays, we say that capoeira, we've always said, when you play capoeira, we don't fight capoeira. People are like, oh, you fight capoeira. No, we don't fight capoeira. It can turn into a fight, but generally it starts as a game. And it's like, oh, you dance capoeira. We don't really dance capoeira either. Dance is a part of capoeira, but again, we go into play. So when I have someone in front of me and we do capoeira together, we play capoeira, right? And capoeira is a bit of martial arts, acrobatics, dance, and music. And those are the 4 basic components. It's even more than that, but those are the basic components that go into it. So the biggest thing about capoeira, I think, when people YouTube it, which I'm sure some of your listeners will do after this, is they see these crazy people with these insanely fit bodies and all these muscles doing crazy aerial flips, and you're like, oh man, this is way too intense for me. Like, I'm a 40-year-old person, or like 30, and this I should have started this when I was 5 if I wanted to do it. But come to my class. There's none of that going on. That's the stuff you see on like social media and on videos, but you yourself have been to my class,
I've been to your class, and
it's nothing like that.
Yeah, you have like beginners, then you have like intermediate beginners. It's really good, like, so people can take it at their own pace, and there's never any pressure to it. It's about fun. And another thing that I loved about your class as well was the sense of connection that it brought to as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Community is a big thing for us, but physically we work with everyone's limits, because play should be for everybody, right? When we see children play, all the kids play. They all play together. Doesn't matter what their abilities are, right? And so for us, that's it. It's about getting everybody together, doing the thing. And you can do it when you're, like, we teach 6-year-olds, and I've played capoeira with like 80-year-olds. Actually, really recently in Brazil, I was with a very famous teacher, and he's 83 now.
83.
Yeah, and he's still moving, and he's still part of the, as you said, still part of the bigger community. And that's something in the study of longevity that I think is a lot of people talk about longevity nowadays. It's becoming kind of a buzz thing. And we talk about movement, we talk about nutrition, we talk about vitamins, minerals, hormones. But one thing that people don't talk about enough, I think, in my opinion at least, is the psychological parts, right? And a community is actually one of the biggest things that we lose as we age. Because as we age, people die, people, you get busy. Your life goes from not busy at all as a kid to really busy as an adult to far less busy as a retired person usually. But like through that, in that middle period, we lose a lot of connections, right? We lose family. Like if you have kids, they might start working or have their own life. So we start losing a lot of our connections. So community is actually something that I think in the modern world, we've lost so much of, and we are fighting to like regain it in little ways, not even like consciously. Some people very subconsciously, like, why am I sad? Why am I this? Because there's nobody around you, and we're pack animals, right? Like people are like, no, I'm connected. I'm on WhatsApp and Instagram and everything's like, that's not connection.
You need face-to-face human interaction.
Yeah.
Connection.
You need conversation. You need people that are there for you in your times of struggle. You need people there to celebrate times of joy. And it's funny, this really, for me, that is a huge part of longevity. I always tell this story that...
Before you tell the story, we're going to go for a break, and when we come back, you can continue that story.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Live Well, Be Well show. I have Paulo on today. He's a capoeira instructor. He even has his own capoeira school in Cork, and he's also an osteopath. And before you went to the break, you were just going to tell us this very interesting story.
So I was talking about community, and a concrete example of that for me is me and one of my best friends in this art form. Like we grew up together in it. His name is Stacy, And we used to do what we call commitment classes. So there'd be times, and even though I've been doing this 25 years and I teach, there's days I would go home from work, sit down on the couch. I don't want to move. I want to my couch has absorbed me. I want to be there. I want to rest. And my brain has convinced me, you need rest, bro. But that's not true. And Stace would call me up and he's like, hey man, you go to class today? I'm like, no. He's like, that wasn't a question. What time do you go in class? I'm like, I'm not going to go today. I'm not feeling great. He's like, I don't care. Commitment class, let's go. And we used to call them commitment classes. And I used to do the same for him, being like, hey man, do you need me to pick you up? And he's like, oh, I might not go today. I'm like, no, what time do I come pick you up? And it was that little push. And we would say, like, you can train and have the worst class of your life today. That's no problem. You went. And for a lot of people, I think the biggest struggle is going. Just starting, doing. Once you're in the gym or once you're in class or whatever, doing yoga, doing Pilates, doing Capoeira.
Going for a walk.
Going for a walk, absolutely. The biggest hurdle is that initial, I'm gonna go, because everything seems like a mountain. Oh, I have to put my shoes on, I have to change clothes, do I really feel like doing this? It's gonna take me so long to get there or whatever. But like you said, a walk is just out your front door. But your mind still makes a hurdle out of it. So community can help with that, because when my students come to Capoeira class, they're not coming necessarily to go train, like they are, but they're coming to see their friends. They're coming to have the banter, the chats, before class, during class, after class, So the community becomes a little bit of a motivational push for you, being like, especially in your times of like your low times, but also in your high times. So yeah, that's how I feel like community is really important for all of this kind of stuff that we talk about.
Brilliant, fantastic. And when you're not training and you're not teaching, you're also working as an osteopath.
Yeah.
For our listener today, if it's their first time hearing that, could you explain what you do, what an osteopath does, and what kind of things do you treat?
Absolutely. So an osteopath is a funny term. It's very big in the UK and France and stuff, but here in Ireland it's not as well known. Everyone thinks when they hear the word osteopath, they're like, you're a bone doctor. Not a bone doctor. We don't really treat bones. We treat joints a lot of joints, but not so much bones. So an osteopath is basically, it was started by an American in the 1800s. He was a doctor. And in America, in the US, osteopaths are doctors. They're doctors of osteopathy. And he basically saw that medicine wasn't really, like he had 4 daughters, I think, 4 daughters, I can't remember right now. They all died of like diseases that were nowadays preventable. Back then, not so much. I think it was TB. And essentially, he was like, there's got to be a better way. And so he championed things like stop eating crazy amounts of fat, stop injecting yourself with opium or taking opium all the time as a solution, like stop taking meds so much, exercise, eat better, which back then were radical, crazy ideas. And nowadays, they're pretty normal. So what osteopathy really is basically, the easiest way to define it is it's somewhere between a physio and, let's say, a chiropractor or some manual therapist. What we do is we take people who are injured, chronic injuries, acute injuries, or other ailments, and we try to find ways why they're not recovering. The best thing I can say is that I'm like a body detective. That's the best way to describe the job. So somebody comes in with a problem in their right shoulder, I'm looking around to be like, is it because the right shoulder is, like, that's where the pain is, but is that where the problem is? So we start doing a bunch of tests and things to see where's the problem actually coming from. Is it coming from your neck? Is it coming from lower down in your spine? Is it coming from your elbow or wrist? So it's a really amazing job. I really love it. And yeah, it's, I wish it was better known, because it's quite a bit different than, I always tell people, a physio is an amazing professional as well. And what they do is they're more about the rehab, right? They're way better skilled. They do manual therapy as well, absolutely. And there's some physios out there that are incredible with their hands. But their focus is rehab, exercises. Whereas some osteopaths, and there's osteopaths out there that are incredible at rehab, right? But their main focus is manual therapy, moving the body, doing techniques that will physically move the person. I hope that makes sense. I don't know.
It does, yeah. It sounds like the best of both worlds, that when you go to somebody who, like yourself, is trained in osteopathy, that you get a mix of a physio and chiropractor, you know?
A little bit. We do the adjustments.
The adjustments as
yeah.
well.
Our philosophy tends to be a little bit different than the chiropractor's philosophy, but the techniques are the same, right? And then we do some rehab, but like I said, and we give you some exercises, but usually, to be fair, the 3 fields nowadays are very mixed, because like people will qualify as one, but all the continuing education is kind of shared between all those professions, and so we all like skill in other parts of it, and so it's a very mixed bag. But like when you're talking about the actual field itself, like the main focus of study, that's like...
That sounds really good. I'm learning too as well, so thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, when you set up your Capoeira school, you've over like 20 years of experience more with the teaching. What's one lesson from your teaching journey that might surprise our listener today?
One of the biggest lessons, I think, is that I've had all shapes and sizes and injuries, and I think the biggest lesson is that things are reversible. So I always say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I mean that in terms of range of motion and strength, in terms of your body, right? If you don't use parts of your body, you lose those abilities. So an example is knee flexion, so bending down on your knees, right?
And a lot of people, they have knee issues, they have back issues, hip issues.
Hugely
so big, like.
And people think, oh, I can't bend my knee. Whereas not for everyone, and I really want to make a blanket statement here, nothing's a blanket statement, every case is individual, but for a lot of people, the problem with your knee is that you haven't been using it enough. You've been sitting in chairs, so your knee only bends to 90 degrees most of the time. You're not actively deep squatting and doing things. Whereas for me, I've been training capoeira since I was 18 years old, and a lot of capoeira is full knee flexion, sitting my butt on my heel, and so my knees are always fully bent. They're over my toes. There's a myth out there that your knees over your toes is a bad thing. It's not, but it is if you're not used to it. You have to get back into it. And so people think, oh, I'm too old for this, I'm too old for that. You're not too old. You just have to take everything in measured steps. But you can regain almost any ability you've lost. You just have to be measured and calculated. Maybe if you're 55 years old, you're not going to have the body of when you were 20. You're not going to recover from injuries so fast. And you've lost so many abilities that you had just for free, naturally at 20 years old, that you have to now take measured steps to bring them back. Now, of course, my disclaimer there is every case is different, so there are some people with conditions that but those are the exceptions, not the rule. So the rule tends to be more, most people can get a lot of these abilities back. So, and it'll just make you feel better in life. You'll move around better. You'll live life better, So yeah, that's the biggest myth. And it isn't just capoeira. I love capoeira. I love it so much. It's my art. It's the thing I'm passionate about. But I very much acknowledge it's not for everybody. You have to find your thing that motivates you, that lights that fire inside of you. And if you find that thing, just stick with it. If it's yoga, Pilates, going for a walk, walking your dog,
dance is good as well.
Absolutely.
I know you have some of that in the capoeira, but like dance is
dancing,
so
100%. Gymnastics. Some people, I find it crazy that people train gymnastics to like 20 years old, and they're fit, they're amazing, they've got all these crazy skills, and then they can no longer compete, so they stop. And like, that's insane. You've just dedicated so much part of your life to this awesome world of movement, and then because you're not going to make the Olympics, you quit. Like, keep going, do it recreationally. And that's something we have to find more of, is recreational fun in our lives, because that'll keep us moving and going, and it'll make us so much better in old age, and they'll have lasting effects on our bodies.
Lovely. And do you have any funny stories or interesting stories, like from the teaching, that something happened in your class, like funny story that came up with the students for our listeners today?
Yeah, it's like 20 years of teaching, so there's tons of things that have happened over the years. Rather than funny, I kind of want to share, if I can, there's a story that's popping in my head about a girl that came to me, and it was just about what we were talking about, find your thing. She came to my capoeira classes, and luckily I have my background as, in health, and she was like, look, I want to try this, but I had to give up yoga recently because I had a hernia. And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, so there's a lot of movements I can't do. And already I'm like, I tell my kids, I hate the word can't. I don't currently have the ability to. I'll accept phrasing like that, but can't is a It's a very strong word that, because your brain tells you you can't, your body believes you. So I'm like, okay, you have a hernia, no problem, or you had a hernia, it got stitched up, but you have to be careful, you're recovering from one, cool. So we were gonna do bridging in class one day. And she's like, I can't do that. I'm like, I'm not expecting you to do a bridge. I don't want you to do a bridge. That would be like real bad of me to get you to do a bridge and just go, terrible coaching. Come on, just push up into a bridge. No. I'm like, try a glute bridge for me. And she did a little glute bridge. And I'm like, how does that feel? Like, monitoring her. She's like, that feels okay. I'm like, perfect. You're stuck there for a while. When I say bridge, you glute bridge. You're going to develop this core strength and you're going to work these muscles and this and that. And eventually she didn't ever full bridge when she was in Capoeira, but afterwards she stopped training. She was like, look, Paulo, I'm not really, it's enjoyable, but it's not my thing. And I'm like, that's okay. But she's like, the message she gave me afterwards, and this was what really stuck with me, she's like, thank you so much, because I'm actually going to go back to yoga now, and because I love that, but you've shown me that I can still do yoga. So that was incredible for me, because she discovered that okay, I have this injury, I have to work around it, but there's still a whole huge world of movement around this one injury, right? And so it's like that for anybody. There's some incredible videos online of people doing capoeira with no legs,
wow,
which you think is crazy and impossible, but it's possible. The whole heart of capoeira is use you to play the game. And whatever you look like, whatever your abilities are, use what you have and try to gain back. So some people that, there's more than one that have no legs or have some sort of issue in the lower half of their bodies, they use their arms a lot more. They walk around on their hands and stuff, and they learn these abilities, and you're just like, it's incredible. So it's about that. Those are the inspiring moments for me. So
good, adapting, brilliant.
Yeah.
Before we finish up, I'm curious, do you have any events coming up, or if our listener is listening in and is curious about learning about capoeira, about coming to you for a session with osteopath, how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So with capoeira, we have a big, huge event coming up in November. I'm actually getting my second last grading in the art, but before that, we're going to do a little pub quiz to gain funds, because we fly in masters and teachers from all over the world. They're literally coming from Brazil, Canada, Italy, Spain, lots of places. They're coming in England. So we've got people flying in, so it's quite an expensive event. So we have a little fundraiser pub quiz happening at the end of September, I believe. It'll be on our Instagram. We also have a beginner's course. So I designed beginner's courses so people, to keep the fun, they all start in a group, and that's happening at the end of September. Our kids' classes are starting up on the 3rd of September, or the 2nd of September, pardon me. And all that information can be found at capoeiracork.com or our Instagram at Capoeira Cork. We'll have posts about that, and you can just message us. With osteopathy, I work out of the city center, so CM Therapy Clinic is the handle on Instagram. So you can just look us up on Google or Instagram, give me a shout, and I'd be happy to book you in for a treatment.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been really enjoyable listening to you today and learning all about the beautiful capoeira and what you do as well with the body for people. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome. So that brings us to the end of the show. Until next time, be well, Deborah.